Today, we're getting the insights from video game music composer in Germany, Nikita Malko. Nikita, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So, what are you working on now?
Well, at the moment, I'm just trying to look for new projects because I've just finished my latest one. Just updating my branding, making new videos, thinking of new content to upload. So that kind of stuff.
What was the last project you just finished?
The one I can talk about is the one we released last year. It was Volga the Viking 2. It's like this platformer, hardcore Viking game. A lot of fun if you're into hardcore games where you're gonna die every single second.
How did you find that developer?
Well, I actually just reached out of them after they released the game before Volga. I think it was Wizardry. And I just showed my demo reel, told about myself a bit, and it just so happened that they needed a composer right in that moment. So I guess right time, right place. And from there, we got to know each other and worked on the project.
So, just some cold outreach. Was it on social media?
I believe I sent them an email. So I usually research for new projects through Steam or through social media. And I think I just found them as a company through Steam. And that's where I went from.
Are you still doing cold outreach to people now?
Yes, every now and then. I actually just finished like 2 emails about an hour ago. It's a good way to connect with new people who don't know anything about you. Sometimes it just stays unopened forever in the inbox.
Do you have any tips on how you craft your email?
I like to research a lot about the company before sending them anything because what I've noticed is a lot of people send a copy-paste email to everyone. And it's like, just imagine yourself in the position of the game developer because they're getting those emails every hour in hundreds. And if it's just a copy-paste, unpersonalized email, then they will just not remember you and not really care for what you do. So usually I just research a lot, see what projects they worked on, and then see if I can do something with it. Sometimes I do personalized, almost like role-playing type of emails where I present myself as a character of the game and offer my services.
That's cool. That's a pretty unique way to do it.
Credits to Alex Pfeffer for that idea.
I like his channel a lot. He's great. I've also noticed you've been posting like every day for 250 days now. How do you find the discipline and the time to do that?
It's an interesting thing because before I started working on video games, I was actually mostly working on my metal band. And there was a year where I decided that I really need to concentrate on social media. So I started uploading videos every single day. And back then I didn't have any strategy at all. So by the end of the year, I was burnt out. I didn't want to do anything at all. It brought some results. The album I was promoting got way more streams than the first one. But without strategy, I think it's guaranteed to fail. So this time I decided to do something different and actually find the type of content that is more comfortable for me to use without stressing me out too much. So usually I just sit on one day of the week, record a whole batch of videos, edit them, and then I have videos for like 1 or 2 weeks and I can just upload them every day. On most platforms, I can even schedule them. So like, I think on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, I schedule the videos, and everywhere else I do it manually.
So are you just writing little 30-second clips, or are you writing whole tracks?
Most of the tracks that I use in those videos are the tracks I already released as a full music piece on like Spotify or somewhere else. Or if I get the permission from the game developer, then I can sometimes use actual soundtracks, but I prefer not to do it just to avoid copyright issues that might arise from it. Yeah, and then I just cut a whole batch of me working in the studio and add some music to it. And I feel it's just a good way to introduce people to your music because it's showing music in the rawest form. It's just out there.
Yeah, and at this point, I've seen enough of yours to kind of understand your style of music too, and so I think it helps to build that kind of brand for you. Has it been effective in meeting new people or led to any new work?
Some people have reached out to me because of it. Every now again, every now and again, I get requests from people asking me if I can do something in a different kind of style, or maybe if I can do something specifically like the one track I uploaded. So it's a good way to meet new people. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious if you were what you were doing with these tracks, if they were all new ones. Like, are you compiling an album for the marketplace, or are you releasing them personally on Spotify?
If it's just a track I compose for my portfolio, then I upload it on Spotify so that people can listen to it. Because the thing is, there are a lot of people who don't even play video games and still like that music. For example, people who play D&D often use music that is very similar to video game music, and it's very useful to have something like that on Spotify because then you just reach more people with it, and then they might put you in different playlists, and from those playlists you might get even more developers reaching out to you. So who knows?
Have you considered making marketplace packs for like the Unity or Unreal marketplace?
I have considered it. There's something very similar to it that's currently in the works. I'm not entirely sure if I can talk about it because I'm working on it with a different person. But when it comes out, I'll let you know.
Cool. Do you ever play Dungeons and Dragons yourself?
I've always wanted to get into it. I kind of never had the time or the opportunity to really get into playing D&D. But I've composed a lot of music specifically for custom campaigns. It was something I did before I started working on video games.
So you've never played?
Not really, not in the direct way. But I really got interested in that after I played Baldur's Gate 3. So I'm kind of obsessed with the idea of starting to do it now.
Well, maybe one day we can put together a little one night tiny little game we could play.
Sure, sure.
um, do you ever, when you're writing tracks, do you ever give yourself constraints or challenges to make it interesting and improve your skill?
Yeah, it's a very helpful idea when you start feeling burnt out. From what I've experienced so far, because sometimes when you're working with the same template over and over again, when you have all those orchestral instruments you like, sometimes you just subconsciously start thinking in the terms of those instruments you've been using all this time. So sometimes I just pick a library I haven't used in months and try and write a track only with that library, or maybe record some sound that I've heard. Some, for example, I don't know. Recently, I recorded my toaster and processed it into some sound design and used it in a track. So
So, in your template, has your template been kind of fixed in place, or do you still constantly change it up?
I like updating it every now and then. Sometimes it has to do with the fact that I get a new library that I really like using, so I obviously put it in my main template. But I also sometimes do project-specific templates. So, for example, for Volga the Viking 2, I actually had to rework like half of my template just because of the specific sounds I used there. Because again, it's a Viking-themed game, so we wanted to combine orchestral sounds with kind of those Nordic sounds, and I had to mix it up in the template a bit so that I don't have to re-upload instruments every now and then.
Are there any libraries that are your real favorites?
I really like most of the libraries by performance samples. It's what I use for most of my strings or brass. Mm, I use Cinebrass quite a lot. And for the more like ethnic type instruments, I really like Groth by Wavelet Audio. Use it quite a lot. So I guess those are. Oh, and there are some more from Zero G. I really like the vocals they're doing with Clara Sorace.
Yeah, I have a couple of those too. They've got the legato voice lines that blend together really well.
Yeah.
Those are great. Um, Some of your choirs are real powerful. Which ones are you using for that?
Mostly Oceania by Performance Samples. It's I just really like the workflow with it. It's very simple to make sound good. Just play it in, and it just responds to what you have to do. And it's kind of like it's my most favorite characteristic in the library when it just sounds great, no matter how you play it.
I have that one. I really like it too, and it's actually really affordable too. And sometimes it goes on sale too. You mentioned some like field recording with your toaster. Do you do much sound effects for games, or mostly just the music?
I like doing both. So I'm primarily a composer, so I don't do sound design entirely for the games that often, although I like it too. But I like using some custom sounds in my music as well. So for every single project I do, I consider what kind of sounds could fit into the world, and then see if I can create something like that with what I have. For example, well, for sound effects, I either use random objects or the instruments I can't really play that well, so I just play them the way I can and then process the sound into something completely different. So, for example, I have this one small steel tongue drum, which was actually made for kids, and it doesn't sound good, but I made an entire library out of it just with sound design. And every now and then I just throw in some of those sounds, and it just kind of gives it an extra flair.
Are you just collecting a bunch of wave files, or do you put them into like a contact instrument?
Uh, Both. I have some folders with just the sounds, and I also have a couple custom made libraries. And I'm not a great contact sample library developer, but you can do a lot even without having in-depth knowledge of contact.
I have a background in programming, and that's kind of where my career's been. So I've dabbled with some of that KSP programming. So if you ever do want to work on something, you can always hit me up.
Well, thank you. Will
Um,
do for sure.
so how about your learning? Do you have formal music education?
Yes, but I got it way later. I started working on video game music, I think like 6 years ago, and on music in general about 10 years ago. Um, and the formal education is actually quite a recent development just because I wanted to learn a bit more um, about the music theory side of things. Because ever since my metal days, I kind of taught myself to just pick it up by ear and compose by ear, and that's how I learned most of music. I was just listening to insane amounts of albums from all across the genres, and that's how I learned most of the things I can. And then I just wanted to have like something more set in stone for the music theory. So I went to the university. I actually got a degree for music sciences, but I wouldn't say that it influenced my writing that much. So I understand music a lot better now than I did before the university. But yeah, it's still the same style. It didn't change me radically after that.
Did you find the university was worth it? Would you do it again?
Depends. For me, it was kind of worth it because because I can now read sheet music and write it as well, and I just have a better understanding of how orchestras work. But I don't think it's something I would recommend to every single composer. I've heard so many stories from people that said that they felt like they wasted time there. Um, but it's a good way to just know where to look for answers, because sometimes I don't know how to finish the track or where to get inspiration from. And now I can just read a score, learn from it, get inspired, and take some of those ideas and put it in my music.
Are you using mostly the keyboard now to do your composing?
It's the main thing, yeah, but I also play a couple other instruments. So some guitars, I play Saz, which was used on the Witcher 3 soundtrack as well. So that's kind of where I got the inspiration from to get the instrument. I have some woodwind instruments, but I'm not great at them, so I use them as sound effects more often.
Are you actually recording the instruments, or do you just use them to find the musical ideas?
Both, but I like using when I'm actually working on a project. Then I like choosing an instrument and implementing it for something meaningful. Just find an aspect of the game that I like and see if my instruments can symbolize it, and then do it. For example, on Volga, I actually recorded a lot of my own vocals. I've been playing around with both clean vocals and like this. I've been trying to learn Mongolian throat singing. I'm not great at it, but I've kind of found my own rhythm, and now I'm just using this voice, and it just sounds a bit different to the sample library. So I guess it's another unique turn.
Are there any resources that you use that you found to be good for learning, either online or books?
um, YouTube. YouTube has a lot of great information. Um, I'd give a lot of credit to Daniel James as a composer because it's because of his streams that I wanted to get into video game composing in the first place. It kind of motivated me to start learning more about it. And it's not like he's teaching anything; he's just showing his workflow on the streams. But it's just inspirational to me. So I guess if you're looking for that, then this is the great place. Other than that, Alex Pfeffer has taught me a lot, and he's kind of my mentor now. So I still keep learning from that. I'm sorry, my English is not English in today.
You say he's your mentor. Do you actually know him?
Yes, I was actually part of his Audio Artist Tries program that he started, I think 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I'm not entirely sure now, but yeah, we stay in contact.
Very cool. I love his personality. He seems like a really great guy.
Absolutely, and a great teacher too.
I hadn't heard of Daniel James either, so I'll have to check out his work.
I think his Twitch account where he made most of his streams is called Hybrid 2, so it's not under his name. But the YouTube channel, I think you should find it under Daniel James.
What is your composing process like?
It's very different. It's if I'm working on a project, then I usually start with just thinking of what sounds I have that would fit the project. And I like to write a demo track that would just use all of the ideas that I have so far, just so that I have something to demonstrate to the developer. That's what we did with Volga, for example, in some form, because I already had the file for most of the tracks of the soundtrack, if it makes sense. And then we just decided with which track we're gonna start, and I made a short demo for it, like 1 minute long, where I used most of my ideas and explained them to the developer. And this is how I usually go.
Okay.
I try to sketch something and then see where it leads me.
Do you ever use synthesizers in your work, or is it mostly all like sampled instruments?
Not the analog synthesizers, but a lot of synth sounds out of the box. Not on my most recent projects, but on the one I'm working on now, I had to use a couple of synths. So yeah, I actually like it a lot. I wish I had an opportunity to work more in that as well. But I'm perfectly fine with orchestral sounds as well.
How about your software? Which DAW do you like using?
Cubase.
Cubase.
It's just something. I think it's just a habit because I picked up Cubase from my very first sound engineer from back in like 2016, I think, when I was recording the very first metal album. And I just saw him use Cubase, and he taught me a couple tricks there. So ever since then, I've been using Cubase, and yeah, I mean, it has its problems as any other DAW has, but I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you're comfortable with the DAW.
Do you have any tips for people who might just be starting out with the composing and trying to get into video game work?
I'd say start learning business side of it as soon as possible, because the thing is, with most composers I know, they are always very passionate about the music aspect of things, and I'm sure at some point they will get great at music, because it's just what we do as composers. We just keep learning and learning and learning new tricks about music. But as creative people, we always neglect the business side of things, and it's probably the most important to just break through into the industry. I really wish I knew um, more about it back when I was starting out. It would have helped me a lot, and I think I've missed a lot of opportunities just because I was so concentrated on music instead of combining it with business as well.
Are there any important lessons that you've learned about business along the way?
Mm, Mostly that you should keep networking with people from the very beginning, even if you feel like your music is not on the level yet. You should still keep in contact with people, because they will see your development, and I think they will appreciate it, just the amount of work you put in.
Any tips you have on networking?
um, I might not be the greatest person to ask about it, because I'm personally a bit of an introverted person, but it's a thing you develop with practice and time. um, Go to the game conventions if you have something close to you. For example, I actually just returned from one a couple days ago. It's also here in Leipzig, called Cactus, and I met quite a lot of cool new people and cool new developers there. So if you have something like that close to you, go there. You'll at least have fun playing new games, and the best outcome is you'll find someone there who you will know later on, and who might give you some project in the future. Although, don't go there with the intention of getting the project. Just go there to socialize, because no one likes the salesman. Everyone likes friends. Um, Other than that, try to connect with as many people as you can online. Try to put content online. Your music. Don't just expect people to find it on their own. And it was a mistake I was doing for quite a long time, where I was just making releases and making absolutely no content supporting this music release, and it got like 200 views, and that's it. So just keep going at it.
Are you ever doing game jams?
Not at the moment. It's something I've tried before. Uh, Actually, the very first game I scored was a game jam, and it was kind of a stressful one, because I took on a bit more work than I expected. It was a game jam with a very tight schedule. I think it had like 4 or 5 days to finish the entire project. So we made this game about Dracula. It's like a platformer game, and I decided that every single scene there needed to have music. And I think I ended up writing like 20 or 25 minutes of music within 5 days. And it was extremely stressful, especially for the very first job. Uh, but I learned a lot from it. So I guess it's a good experience if you want to um, learn more about video game scoring.
I like game jams because they give you, a real project, a deadline, a prompt, and all that. But personally, all the experience I have with them is like they're just incredibly, incredibly amateur people that really don't don't go into like a professional world, but at the same time, you never know who's just at the beginning of their career and may grow into it. But
Yeah, it's you have to have some luck with it, I guess.
what about on the contracts side of business? Um, do you have any recommendations there on like how you do you sell out the music completely? Do you retain some of the rights? Does that have an effect on the cost?
Well, it depends. Usually, when people want to have full rights, I would recommend to raise the price, because, of course, if you don't have any rights anymore, then you also can't use music as much. Um, but yeah, just discuss the budget first. Um, See if it's a big developer, or if it's a startup, and I'd say don't undersell, but also know how to make compromises, because well, there are a lot of composers, and I've been one of those composers myself. I used to work on Fiverr quite a lot some years ago. Mm, and yeah, sure, you can write an entire soundtrack for 10 euros, but it doesn't have any perspective for the future. So know the value of your work and position yourself as a professional, and then you'll have contracts at some point.
Are you not doing Fiverr anymore?
No, I quit it just because I actually just wanted to do it back then because I wanted to have some work in my portfolio. It wasn't as much for the money as it was for just building experience. And I think for that, it's a great platform, even if you won't earn as much. But I wouldn't make an entire job out of it. I would switch to professional music making if you can, as soon as possible.
Was it just the price that you didn't like, or was it just the people you were getting, or what?
I was actually quite surprised with people there. I mostly had very positive experiences, and there are a couple of people who I'm still working with even after quitting Fiverr, just doing odd jobs for them, like, of course, for a lower price than I would charge now. But um, I had some fun. But it's the way the platform is built that I wasn't quite satisfied with those deadlines that are forced by the system. So it doesn't give you as much flexibility as you would have as a freelancer without a platform like this. And also, yeah, the price, because you would end up writing like 5 minutes of music within a couple days and get almost nothing for it, and it kind of destroys the idea of video game composing as a job.
Have you tried just raising your prices up to a point that was more reasonable for you?
I was, by the end of my career, if you can call it career, um, I was raising the prices slowly but surely. But there is a certain point after which people are just not hiring you anymore on that platform, because the whole idea of the platform is that you can just look for a service and get it very cheaply and very quickly. So, yeah.
That makes sense. What are your future aspirations? Where do you want to be in like 10 years?
I would actually really like to get into AAA composing. Of course, it's an almost impossible world to break into, but you never know. My dream was always to score some open world fantasy game. I don't know. I just like the idea of scoring for the world, for the entire video game world, to create the sounds for different regions, for different stories, and this is kind of where I'm trying to be in.
Are there some games that would be like your dream job, ones that even they've already come out?
Hmm. Well, the thing is, there are some games that I really like and that I wish I would have worked on, but they already have some amazing composers, and I love their music so much that I wouldn't dream to take away any of that. Um, the one I can tell you about a game that actually inspired me to become a video game composer in general, and it's Fable: The Lost Chapters, because I used to play it back as a kid, back at school as a kid, and I think it's the first time I've actually noticed music in games, because it was just such a special experience, and I've replayed this game over and over again throughout my life, and yeah, it's the one soundtrack that stuck with me through all this time.
Awesome. Well, before we go, is there anything else you'd like to share or plug?
Hmm. Not that I can think of now. I guess just a piece of advice for new composers is just keep doing what you're doing. Try new different things. Don't get stuck into one routine. Experiment more, and actually connect with people
And people can find you on X and anywhere else?
on pretty much any platform, except for Twitch. Not at the moment.
Excellent. Well, Nikita, thank you. It was great talking to you, learning about you, learning from you, and I wish you success, and I hope we keep in touch.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.